Everybody thinks that mental health people are crazy. I have people who come in for drug and alcohol. Good example. I've had so many alcoholics tell me they're not addicts. They don't want to be in a group with a person who does crystal meth, someone who's lived on the streets, someone who does cocaine. Those are dirty. I literally have had people say this to me. An addict's an addict. Every person walking the face of this earth or hearth, whichever you want to call it, has a mental health issue. We all deal with stress. Every person's dealt with anxiety because anxiety, it's fear. No one has not gone through a day of their life where they don't have some fear of something, the simplest thing in the world, but that creates anxiety. And the misconceptions are you don't need help. The misconceptions are you can do it alone. The misconceptions are, oh, that's bullshit. Oh, you're just saying you have that problem so you don't have to work on things, so you don't have to be present. I've been depressed my whole fucking life. You don't see me getting it. I've had people say, I never needed it. Well, I look at them like, well, have you seen yourself? Have you looked at your life? I think one of the biggest things is generational too. When you get people who are older, meaning in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s in this country, they weren't allowed to do those things. They didn't realize you could do those things. So they'll be the first to say, well, it was good enough for me. It's good enough for you. Oh, don't have excuses. There's a lot of different misconceptions. The big one is men don't have as many issues as women have. That's a big one. And they do, just to a different degree. To me, they're equal, 50-50. And that's the way I look at it. But the misconceptions are that I can do it myself. Or if someone tells you, if you go up to someone and say you have a problem, they're like, oh, don't worry about it. You can work through it. Well, how are you going to work through it? Listening to somebody? So the misconceptions just vary. But those are some ones I hear on a day-to-day. A good example, there's a lady who went into a treatment program I deal with. This just tells you about conception or perception. She had a fourth DUI. She was driving on PCH Highway. She hit a guy and she killed him. Had to go to court. This was 6-7 years ago. She actually told the judge that if the guy hadn't been riding his bike on the Pacific Coast Highway, he wouldn't be dead. She took no responsibility. It was his fault. It was her fourth DUI. She was drunk as hell. But the guy had the problem. She didn't have a problem. So everybody can skewer what they want and make up it in their own head. But, if you have a problem, there are people who can help you. But always make sure you look for the right people. Don't just accept the first person you meet or read the first book and say, I saved myself, because that doesn't work that way.
16. Can you share an experience where seeking professional help made a significant difference for you?
In 1994, I was sitting in my apartment in San Francisco. I love San Francisco. I was in the depth of my eating disorder, sex addiction, not gambling because I couldn't find any places that were legal. I was sitting in my room and I was stabbing myself in my left lane. And this was right before the Northridge earthquake. I'll never forget that. And I needed help. I saw an ad on television. And I thought, damn, all that stuff is me. I called my brother and I called my family. I said, look, I need my help. My family helped find me a place. I'll never forget. I went back to Sacramento, California. I had an old little pickup that I inherited from somebody in my family. I had $35,000 that I stole from my own business. I drove up, $30,000 to $35,000. I drove up to Lake Tahoe, and I decided to play a game of Baccarat. I walked in, I had big boots untied, big baggy pants. There were holes in my pants. I had a bandana on. My hair was down past my shoulders. I had earrings. Probably looked like I come to rob the place. I went up to put my money down, and the guy said, are you sure? And I said, yeah. Well, I sat there. I lost it. They gave me $20. I got back in the car. I drove back down to Sacramento. I met my brother at a gas station, and I came to Los Angeles for treatment. And it was a moment that brought a lot of clarification. It was the first time I ever thought I needed to do something. First time I ever realized there were people like me. It was a moment.
All right, we got 4 left. 17. How do you manage the ups and downs that come with mental health issues?
It's interesting, just so everybody knows, a lot of the questions sound alike, have the same thing, but they are different, just so you know, asking the people who sent it in. It's a flow. It's accepting the fact that I do have a mental health issue. It's accepting the fact that I have behaviors around that mental health issue. So when I know I'm stressed, I know what my behaviors are. I've already done them. I've learned them. So I try to calm myself. I don't put myself in situations, as I said, being around people, because I can be very argumentative. I could be very combative. I know that off the top of my head. So why put myself in the fire when I don't need to? I've learned a good example. You go home for the holidays, stressful as hell for people. So the holidays, there's a lot of stress. So if you're going to go home, have a plan. If you can't stay with your parents, go to a hotel, stay with a friend. You know, if you know you're going to go into the fire, but you don't have a plan. So every day I have plans for things that create anxiety for me. My work does, my interactions with people, relationships, intimate relationships, they all bring about something. So I have a plan to step back and see what it is, if it's a real one or is it something that's perceived now that happened in the past. So I have plans for the different situations I get myself in, or I know I might be in, and they work for me. They work for me. Never easy, but it works, and I still have a lot of work to do.